So in this video, we discover horrors, things get a bit grindy, and we attend to some pressing matters. Hello, welcome to Tweed's Garage. In this video, we're continuing work on my Adler Mb250 two-stroke. For those that don't know, a German two-stroke of the 1950s, quite rare. But yeah, I was having trouble with the engine, and then dove into it, jumped into it, and discovered that the bearings on the outside, the inner races of the cylindrical roller bearings, were heavily pitted, and decided that we needed to really take it apart. Yeah, didn't want to, you know, because yeah, let's go and have a look at what we discover. All right, let's go and have a look. So we're sitting here with a BREW assessing the Mb250 crankshafts, and things aren't rosy in the crankshaft garden. Yeah, there's a lot of damage. Initially we saw this bearing here was the first sign of trouble on the clutch side. You can see there all the pitting around there. I thought it was rust pitting, but after seeing all the other signs of pitting and where the pitting was, it's where the engine has been sitting a long time with oil settling at the bottom of the bearings and the bottom of the crankshaft in the crankcases. So that's where all the damage has been done in certain points. So you can see here all these little dots, little corrosion dimples all on the crank race there, where there's been contact between roller bearings, oil and this bearing face. So yeah, that bearing needs replacing, that bearing needs replacing. This was the side, this is the one I got off, and again you can see there all the pitting in different areas. So that's a bit of a state. And then also on the gudgeon pin or wrist pin, whatever you want to call it, there's pitting on here as well. There, I think just areas where the engine's been sat for a while with old oil in. And from the state of the tank, suspected it might have had Castrol R dropped in it. So that's the three bearings, that one, that one, that one, two gudgeon pins. So that's the top end, and then the big ends sort of looked okay. There's no sort of rust on them, but there's a weird thing on both sides. I don't know whether these rollers have a ridge in the middle, but there's definitely a step on the rollers there. I don't know what's going on, but that one's like it, and this one's like it as well. You can see the line down there and there, and you can sort of catch the scriber in there and move the roller about a little bit. I'm not sure if it's just a little groove in the middle of the rollers. Quite a lot of work to do that. They're normally just plain all the way along, but you never know. You know what these Germans are like. The coupling is in good order, the bolt's in good order, so that's okay. And the good news is I managed to get crank seals for here, the two here and the two outer ones, and I've managed to get bearings for there, and there, so that's okay. Gudgeon pins, found a company in the UK, put a little screenshot of who they are. They do a multitude of gudgeon pins, all different sizes, mainly for dirt bikes, but I've managed to find gudgeon pins this exact size. So they're 15mm outside diameter, 10mm in the middle, and they're 45, I think 45 millimeters long. Yep, 45 millimeters long. They have them on the shelf, so I can get those, and I can get they do all the circlips to go with them. Yeah, but I need to check these. I didn't want to, but yeah, deep down you know you've got to. So I'm going to have to disassemble the cranks. Now if they're all okay, I've only just got to push off one flywheel on each crank to disassemble the bearings, have a look and check the crank pin on both of them. You know, fingers crossed that they're okay. I think these will be more of a problem to cure than the rest of them. You can use, you know, Japanese com rods and stuff like that. That's why I've held off on not ordering the gudgeon pins yet, because I'm not sure what we're going to do with these. So just getting them ready. What I've got to do is get these two bearings off. There's less room behind these for getting them off than there was for getting this one on. This one's got to be pulled nearly 3 times the distance off the same size shaft. Don't really want to drag it all the way that way. This one you can't really get behind, so I'm just coming up with a method of getting these off, either grinding them down a bit so they get thin and cracking them off, or welding a big flanged washer on them, just spotting it on in a few places, letting the heat not wick too quickly, and using a standard 3-legged puller to try and pull them off, and then hopefully the heat from the weld will also expand them a little bit as well to get those off. And then the other issue I've got, which was really annoying, I mean, we've got little grooves where the seals have been running. The little top hat that I took off the clutch side, that was okay. Here, there's a little, it's polished it a little bit, but the groove's not too big where the seal sits. In the middle, the grooves are a little bit deeper, and then on this end of the crank, yeah, it's not too bad. So that's fine. That's fine. The seals, you know, quite a snug fit anyway, so they fit into those grooves. And some of the two-stroke racer boys, they don't worry about it. They just put new seals in, but what they do is make sure there's no sharp edges on these grooves to wreck the seals. You know, the seals will sit in there quite happily as long as there's no sharp edges, which is great. But unfortunately, this one's fine. This groove here is fine, but this one, I just happened to spot right in the bottom of the groove. There's a load of little pits where the oil's been sitting. Hasn't done it, strange, hasn't done it on this side, but done it on this side. So, you know, that could wear through a seal quite quickly. They're not sharp, you know, they're little recesses, but even so, they've got quite a, you know, you can feel them with a scriber, so they will cause a problem. But all is not lost on here. That's recoverable, I think. I just got to measure from the back of the flywheel this way, but I can get a repair sleeve to go on here. Unfortunately, they don't do them wide enough to do both seals. But as I said, this one's okay. This is just a groove, whereas this one's got the pits down at the bottom of it. So they're like a little top hat, these seals made by SKF and other people. They're really thin. They're just sort of a little bit bigger than, you know, 25 millimeters out, you know, the outside diameter, and they're a little bit smaller. And you get a tool and you just tap them over, tap them home, and then you peel off the flange. There's like a weakened groove all the way around, and once you've got them on, you just tap them with a chisel and then pull this flange off of the back. And I think they're Only 8mm deep for 25mm. Yeah, so that would cover, and they step out a little bit because you've got the top hat and the groove. So I think that would work. One of those would work fine on there because the outer part of the seal would come about here, but it doesn't encroach on the surface where the other seal runs there. So I think we may be okay. But anyway, that's salvageable. But then I've got to pull them apart. Now luckily, unlike the Bantams, these are all scribed up. Look, they've even centre punched them as well. Typical German efficiency. So you've got a line here, a line here, and that's how they, when you put them back together as well, that's how you set them in the engine, and you'll see they're sort of 180 degrees apart. So there's just that line along there between those two centre pot marks. So they've got centre pot marks as well, so they're easy to find, and across there as well, and they're nice and square. So that'll aid me in reassembling the crankshafts after I've taken them apart. So I've got my crank plate that I used on the Bantam, just munched it out with a mill. Yeah, not very cleanly, but wide enough to fit over the con rods. So that'll be ready for pushing that apart on the press. But first I need to get those two races off, clean these up, and then clock them up before I take them apart, so I know when I put them back together, you know, that I'm sort of hitting my target when they go back together. And I'm going to do them separately. Some people have put them, you know, bolted them together and clocked them, but the trouble is, you know, this mechanical joint, it's never going to be 100% spot on where it was the last time, sort of thing. You know, there's oh, I can't push it together with the bolt not there, but they, you know, lock into place, but there must be, you know, a bit of movement here or there, sort of thing. So yeah, I'll do them as separate entities, and then when I put them back together, I'll sort of clock them and try and get them back to where they were. Not looking forward to it, but we need to check these. You know, hopefully they're okay. I mean, there's no play on them. You know, there's a bit of tiny bit of side to side, but there's no up and down on either of them, and they're not graunching when you move them round. They're nice and smooth, but we're going to have to check them. That's another interesting thing. They've both got in the same place. They both have a little indent on each flywheel in the same place. So I'm not sure what that is, whether it's you know, for machining or setting up, or whether it's, I don't know, whether it catches oil in it, and because it's a sort of a blob of it, it throws it forwards up into the pistons. Who knows? Yeah, you know, picking it up from the bottom and flinging it up into the pistons, because the pistons have got little oil holes. These holes in the pistons each side that go through all the way through. They go through the gudgeon pin holes, if you can see just back there, all the way through, you know, and out the other side. So I'm wondering whether they throw a little bit of oil up to help lubricate the little ends. Who knows? So next thing to do, get those off. Right, so we've taken measurements and marked them on the crankshaft, so now we'll attempt to push it apart. Made these little packers just to take up the little ledge that they always have. They always have a bit of relief around the con rod. Just check. The con rod's got movement on it. It's not trapped anywhere. Don't want a repeat of the Bantam, because I can't get con rods for these, not new ones. Over just a touch. Start loading it up. If it's as tight as the bearing interrace is that I had to try and get off, it's going to be a nightmare. Two tons. Oh, there we go. Just over 4 tons. So not a huge amount. 2 tons. And that's going down nicely as well. That one was catching up. Put my hand underneath just in case. And of course we haven't got enough. So up a little bit. There we go, just drop a nut in there, stick it in the middle. Drop that in there. Yeah, that's all it needed. So one flywheel pushed off, and there is the famous bolt that we couldn't see, but we can now see in all its glory. Okay, there's no space from that side. And then we'll examine the big end. Okay, let's start having a look. Well, there's the famous bolt that we couldn't see. That definitely needs a decoke, but it's in pretty good condition. So no broken teeth on it or anything. So yeah, that can be cleaned up and popped back in. Unfortunately, I've had a little peek in here and it's not good, so I'll just do this, remove that, and then the rollers will fall out. That's why there was a line up the middle. It's two sets of rollers, but yeah, I don't know if you can see See the pitting on there, and yeah, most of them are like that. So let's remove that cage and all its spreads. We will mark which is the outside. Just give it a bit of a degrease, a bit of acetone, and then we just mark on there. That's the outside. And also I can watch the video back as well. And just give the cage a bit of a colour again, so we know that side goes outwards. And then remove that. Pop it over there. And then we'll look at the inner race, which unfortunately has got some tiny bits of pitting just there. That snookers us a bit. But the inside of the conrod, which would be the really difficult bit, looks okay. Yeah, and even there, let's see, it's got eaten away there, and there corresponds to inside there where sort of crap and oil's been sitting. Not sure which way it went round. Any of you lot looking? I think that was the outside. I'll watch back on the video. So that's okay. Cage looks okay. Roller's probably a standard size roller. Yeah, 5mm, 5x5mm rollers in a cage in a roller of 22.36 inside 17. Yeah, I mean the internal rod surfaces are good actually. Where the bearings sit is fine. So the only hope is you can maybe get a roller bearing inner, or a whole cylindrical roller bearing, and scavenge the inner out of it, because this is a two-part crank pin. So if we could get one of those from somewhere, we could rebuild it. What was that? 15 wide, 17 spot on. Yeah. So go to a bearing supplier and see if we can maybe find a race, even if we can scavenge it off another bearing to go in here, and some new rollers would be a way around it. Right, off to the bearing suppliers. And let it not be said that it's bantam cranks that are terribly out of true. Do-do-do. 0.45 of a millimetre, or 17 thou. Good grief, Penfold. Right, it's a bit sort of, you know, untrue really, because the bearings run here, but even so, it means that shaft is out of whack. moving further in. Of course, you know, it's exaggerated the further you go out. So moving near to the bearing, we're going to 0.08 of a millimetre there, just over 3 thou. There's not a lot of stubby to get on the other side, but so if it's high there, so it's bending this way, if it's the crank flywheels that are out, if it's going that way, bent that way, should be a tighter gap here than the gap there, roughly. So sorry, I got sidetracked trying to ungum my little ball gauge here. So yeah, what we've got here is the shaft this is the high side, low side's the other side, which means this crank is going, this shaft is going this way, like this. Now, I'm not sure whether it's the shaft or the flywheels out of alignment, but one way to check sort of roughly, because you know these things are never machined perfectly accurately, unfortunately. If it's high going this way, it would mean that this flywheel is like, hang on, get me in shot, like this. So if we measured it, it should fit in this side. Yes, I'll set that here because so that's sort of tight there. But if this flywheel was bent over this way, when we turn it over to the other side here, it should be loose, which it is. I mean, it's only a tiny amount, but over that length of shaft makes a big difference. So when we pop them back together, we'll try and knock this that way when we're setting them back up again, try and get this shaft to run a lot straighter than it does. So good to know before we take it apart, because we could be chasing our tail when we put it back together thinking we've done something. So right, let's go and stick this one in the press. Right, there we go. Hold on to the shaft underneath just in case. Said the actress to the bishop. Right. Okay. Still movement there, 2 tons. This one seems a bit firmer. Yeah, just under 4 tons like the other one. 3.5, 4 tons. Well, 3 3/4. Here we go again. Yeah. Yep, and we need the, what have I done with my nut of persuasion? Where's that gone? Oh, I know where it was. Little nut of persuasion down there. Okay. Okay, all lining up. Hold on to the shaft. There we go. Just that little bit, just to pop it out. Right. There we go. Second one pressed apart. Take this back to the workshop and see what damage is on this one. So got it apart. Cage is okay. Conrod is okay. A few little pits, but not at the top where all the forces are going on it. rollers were really badly pitted, and the inner race has got a little patch of pitting on it somewhere. No, not that one. That was the previous one. This one. Yeah, pitting on there. Like so. A bit of pitting on the back of the flywheel, so the same sort of issue. Brass cage, that's okay. The sort of rollers are sitting in there quite nicely, so that's all right. And surfaces of the conrod, pretty good. Few little pits, but nothing too drastic to worry about. So need to research and see if we can get, well, we can get these. I know we can get these, but if we can get a bearing race to replace this, so hopefully we can retain the original conrods rather than going down a rabbit hole of trying to find alternate ones, plus, you know, conrods that don't fit, or having to change pistons and going down that rabbit hole. So we've got a little shopping list. Got a repair sleeve, in a bearing race, rollers. Yeah, so time to attack the interweb of things and make a few phone calls. Right, get back to you. So there you go, all the horrors finally revealed. Yes, yeah, didn't want to go in there because yeah, you always have an inkling, don't you? But yeah, so now we got the trouble of trying to sort it out, and it's quite tricky. I've as I said before in a previous video, I'd ordered the main bearings, crank main bearings, the two outer ones and the one inner one. Yeah, still waiting for them to arrive. They were meant to arrive 2 weeks ago and they still haven't turned up. Yeah, from France they're coming from, so, you know, 2-hour lunch break and all that. So anyway, but now where we've got to now, there's no rush because it's going to take a long time to sort this out. I thought the crank pin is a 2-part crank pin, so it's got a bearing race pushed on it. So I thought it would just be a case of pushing that outer race off, getting a new one. You can get sort of, you know, just plain inner races, 17mm inner, 22mm outer. I thought it'd just be a case of getting some of those, and some of them were a little bit wide, but I thought that's all right. I can get them ground down and push them on. New set of rollers, pop it all back together, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, all happy days. But unfortunately, for some strange reason, Adler decided to make the inner race 22.415mm, and it also corresponds to the hole in the conrod as well. When you add, so it's 22.415, got rollers top and bottom, so they're 5mm each, so it's 10mm, so it should be 32.415 plus or minus tolerances, and that doesn't equate to anything standard. You just can't find it. And I was hoping that I could get sort of a cylindrical roller bearings, a couple of those, and just pull them apart and just use the inner races. But for one, the inner races aren't flat all the way along. They're sort of flat where the cylindrical rollers roll in the middle on a bearing, and then they sort of slope away each side. So that wouldn't have suited these because they have like a double set of rollers on them, so they need quite a nice wide bearing surface to sit on. And the other thing is, you know, they're just not a standard thing. Like an inner race for one of those, I looked at the SKF bearing book and it's sort of 22.9 for the outer diameter of the inner race. So even that won't work. Thought about maybe getting one or getting some and getting them ground down, but I don't know how far you can grind down through the race before you get through the hardening, you know, and then it's trying to find a company that is prepared to, you know, grind 2 cylindrical bearing inner races. Yeah, so it's quite a puzzle at the moment. So I think we're going to have to scrap the idea of using the Adler rods and bearings, and there's an Australian Adler website that I found, and one of you told me about it as well. I had looked at it quite a few times, but I don't know how old that is, but most of the links are all dead and defunct now. The websites have all gone. But he suggested you use Kawasaki Samurai rods and Suzuki pistons. Now, unfortunately, Kawasaki Samurais I don't think were ever imported into the UK, and looking into it, they're pretty rare. Trying to find parts for them in the US, I couldn't find any, and this website's based in Australia, so I don't think they were ever shipped into the UK. So I think they were sort of US Australian, because they're a sort of an off-roady style bike which were very popular in those markets. And again, they're sort of made the same sort of era as the Adler, maybe a little bit later, up to about the 60s. So they're as rare as rocking horse crap as well, trying to find those. So I think the only other option is what Dean and I were going to do with the aerials, because they're same bore, same stroke, is go for some Lambretta rods and Suzuki pistons. So I think Suzuki X7 pistons. It depends on the size of the gudgeon pin or the wrist pin. I think it's 16 millimeters, or early Suzuki GT 250s use 16 millimeter wrist pin as well, crank, gudgeon pin, whatever. Yeah, so those are sort of the options, but the rod is a couple of millimeters longer. But I think with the Suzuki pistons, they're not as tall from the where the gudgeon pin goes to the crown of the piston. They're a couple of mil shorter. So if you just used them on a standard Adler rod, you'd drop your compression. But I think with a slightly extended rod, it brings your compression ratio back up again. But then we're messing with two-stroke porting and all that kind of thing. So yeah, not good. So unless anybody's got sort of Adler crank pins, bearings and con rods sitting in a drawer, or a pair of Kawasaki Samurai rods, it's going to be a bit of a long haul sorting this out. What's the part number? Part number for the Kawasaki is, there's two part numbers. One's obsolete. Well, they're both obsolete. You can't get either of them. It's 13044-006 is the old part number, and 13044-007 is the replacement part number. But yeah, this stuff isn't about. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment, sort of searching for bearings, searching for solutions. And the trouble is with the Lambretta con rods, they're 14 millimeter. That half the issue sometimes is the width on these earlier two-stroke rods. The aerial ones are narrow, and the Adler ones are 15 millimeters, and the Lambretta ones, they're 14. So I don't think I can even use I'm going to have to space out, because what I was thinking was getting the crank pins and just boring them out to push fit 17 millimeters to go to replace the Adler ones, but then they're going to be 1 millimeter narrower. So I'm going to have to space them out somehow. Maybe some shims in there just to space them out when I press them back together, and then on the side of the con rods, turn up some phosphor bronze washers like they do. A lot of the two-strokes have them. They have sort of two bronze washers each side with little dimples in, to hold the oil and stop the con rod running from side to side into the side of the crank flywheels. So yeah, there we go. So we've gone from on an upward increase of motorcycles running to we've dropped one and it's going back down, and it's all on the bench over here. So yeah, I'm gonna have to build the BSA back up just to give me some space to chuck another engine bit underneath. Anyway, do I sound bitter? No, I don't sound bitter. It's just one of those disappointing things. But on the plus side, I have tidied my shelves up. You may notice here, look. Yes, had loads of these little sets, you know, these little sets of knick-knacks, grub screws, springs, nuts and bolts, all that kind of thing. But there was about, I managed to get rid of 24 cases, and I found these boxes in all the range. And they're just the right size. They fit on the shelf without falling off. And I've put all me, like these ones have got me, I'll probably tip it on the floor. Got me grease nipples and some O-rings and copper O-rings and a few other bits and bobs in there. And then I've got all the other ones are all labelled up. And then hopefully I'll pick a couple more up as well. I can get, I think, 2 on each side. So I'll have my little sort of small parts store over here, neat and tidy. Yeah. Rest of the workshop looks like a bomb site, but it's tidy over there. Yeah. So anyway, that'll do you for now. And yeah, I'm going to go and have a grumble down the house, and I'll see you next time. All right. Cheerio. Yeah, don't look at me, Jenkins. I'm not in a good mood. Motorcycles, and just made... they're quite hard to get parts for. Bob's your Fanny, Fanny's your aunt. Funny.